Great. So far, this application, what it does is on refresh, let's take a look at this index.js. We have DOM content loaded. We wait until the DOM loads. All right. We log loaded. We don't need this anymore. Did somebody tell him to put a semicolon here? He just did it?
Yeah.
Wow, so good. Alex, so powerful. You grab the table, and all you really do is you create this function that converts something that comes from a database, this animal object, into HTML. That's what we really need, because once it's HTML, then we can slap it on the DOM. I'm gonna stop doing that. That lasted for two cycles. No thanks. So then what we do is we fetch. What RESTful URL is this? /animals.
Yes.
It is a get, but RESTfully, it is the... Just kidding. It is the index action. So remember why routes are so powerful, right? A get to /animals should point to what RESTful route? Index. And so if we take a look at, wow, let's do this. The routes file, that's not right. We have index. And so index will point to, based on resources, what? What controller action? All these questions sound very familiar from Mod 2. The animals controller, the index action. So if I make a fetch, right, to localhost 3000 /animals, I will hit this. And so if we wanted to drop the buy bug, the second I send that fetch, that's basically what's going to happen. I can, in fact, send a fetch. I was just testing something. Boop, boop. If I go to /animals and I send that, promise is pending. It's still pending. Did it come back yet? No. It's not resolved. And it's not resolved because, guess what? I'm in this buy bug over here. It's just... Okay? I missed you guys. Yeah. My college class is not like this at all. I talk about leadership and stuff, so it's different. All right. Let me blow this up real quick. Right? And that's how it hit this. Are there any questions as to why Rails routing the fetch URL hits the controller action? Who feels comfortable in understanding that? That's really about it. Instead of doing a browser get, no, I can't do a get, right? A localhost 3000 /animals. What will happen? What will I see if I did that? If I use the browser to do it?
The JSON.
I got an empty array. That should make sense because unfortunately when Alex did this, he had no seed data, so the database didn't come with it. Right, I know. I also blasted it because he made me a herbivore. So, oh, you did, huh? Yeah, then the database got dropped accidentally. Cool. Right. And so that should make sense, right? Because this is what it's rendering. I alluded to this in Mod 2 when I said always write the render, because sometimes you're not just going to be rendering HTML. You could be rendering other things. And so here we're rendering some JSON, and naturally it comes back as JSON. So let's actually finish up this create action here and figure out how that works. And figure out how to write it specifically. So, oh yep, this is it. Bloop. Great. What should send the post request? Typing in here, this drop down, or clicking this add animal button. Right, naturally, this is like you're starting to think through this user experience. On this click, right, it should send a fetch request. And so let's do that. Let's take a look at our index.js. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, nice. Am I currently paying attention to this animal button right now as you have left this code? No. What pieces of information do I need, though? What pieces of information should I be sending? Because let's think through this whole thing, right? I'm trying to hit this create action. if you remember, at some point inside the create, I will do animal dot, I don't know, create with the params. Now the params are coming from a different place. And so remember when we talked about this form? When I do this form, what do you see happen? That full page sort of like refresh, which is not the user experience that we want. And quite frankly, it's just too much data that happens, right? Like, let's take a look at the network. When I hit add animal, look at all this stuff that has to download. This is the waterfall, and it didn't take 1.2 days. That was, this lecture would have been way too long. Let's deep dive into this a little bit. All right, interesting. Huh. That for whatever reason is off. Natural. Okay, I don't know. Chrome's acting a little weird. But it was only 2.7 kilobytes to download this document, and all the script tags, the style sheets, even the fetch request that was executed by the JavaScript. And so look at this, 6 milliseconds, 2 milliseconds. That is a 5-star user experience. Once you write too much JavaScript in one file, it starts to take, I don't know, 1.2 days, and then your page doesn't really load. 1-star user experience, so you want to try to keep your files as small as possible. Very complicated, very next level is, if you want to do a blog post about it, I'd highly recommend it, or looking into it and learning it. It's called code splitting. Now that we're at this level where we understand events, we can have an event where, let's say I had like 1,000 things on this page. I only want to load the first part of this page. On scroll, when I scroll and move down, an event listener is listening for the first scroll. That can easily fire off an event, get more data, and load only when the user needs it. And so your page loads faster. And so there's just things to start to think through as we talk about performance of your website and getting good.
That's how like open world video games work. It only renders what's directly in front of you.
Yeah, if you're talking about a video game that takes like a lot of memory, it'd be insane to load the whole world at once, right? You only want to load kind of what's in front of you, and as you walk around, you want to load just enough that whatever you can see.
You can totally use that
Forever, always and forever. I mean, it's on the recording now. So the idea here, again, is just I want to prevent that button from doing its default action, and that is submitting the form. So let's do that. Let's look at the HTML. We can do this. Get out of here. All right, we can look at the HTML. And what is it that we need? What do we need? Do we need the button? We need the form for sure, right? So let's grab the form. Where can I find the form in here?
Line 29.
Okay, that's where it starts. Yes, very good. But it's really,
Oh, 32.
ooh, sneaky, 32, right? Because this div is obviously not a form. It's just we're adding some class and styling to it. So the form right here is under class UI form. So let's do it. Is that how you guys want to grab it? Or do you want to do something else to it? It's fine for right now. I only have one form, but as I get more forms on the page, I'm probably want to add a unique identifier. So for right now, little const form, only form on the page, is equal to document dot query selector. And what was it? I forgot already. Embarrassing. Smart. Cool. And how do I grab it? With the hash? Smart. And then let's just console log the form. Say again, over? Yeah? Actually, so let's take 2 seconds to actually dive into that. The question is, does it matter about this space? So when it comes to CSS selectors, who feels somewhat comfortable with them? Okay. Query selector works off of how CSS selectors are built, meaning that there is a class of UI, and specifically with the class of UI, it also has to have a class of form. If I look for something that also has a class of table, is there anything inside my HTML that has all three? No, right? So it'll find nothing. That's why it's important that they're space separated, because these are, how many classes can you read here? How many classes are here now? And that's why CSS is written this way. And so CSS is dashes, right? Ruby, you got that snake case, and then JavaScript is camel cased. Cool? And so this indicates that something has 3 classes on it. So here, we're just being more specific.
For here, we're grabbing the class name.
Right. We're grabbing something with the class name of UI and form. If, unfortunately, somewhere else on this entire page had UI and form, it would grab the first one because I'm using query selector. If there's 2 items on here with UI and form, like let's say I did this, it would only grab the first one. If I use query selector all, this select would also come up. Even though there are 4 here, the specificity I'm looking for is it must contain, at a minimum, these 2 classes. Are there any questions on like CSS selector, specifically how it pertains to query selector and how we grab the items that we want? That's why we use IDs typically. It's just more secure. And IDs should only be used one time ever on your website. Cool? So.
Like per div or
No, like your whole HTML and anything you ever add to the website ever should only have one unique identifier declared one time. So you can use 30 IDs, but they have to be different. Like if I use the ID of PA Rivers, because it's hilarious, I should never use PA Rivers again on my page.
If you had a class of Jack, go ahead.
Yeah, everybody gets a class of Jack. I almost, ooh. Everyone gets that class. Man, I know this class is fast on the uptake, so I have to be dicey. So we have the form. All right, let's move on here. We have the form, and what do we need to do with this form? What are we waiting for?
listen.
Yeah, we're listen for event, so we should on the form add event listener. All right, I love that you guys have the right attitude and the right answer. It's just not a complete answer, and this is useful to draw that out, because as you get into whiteboarding, as you get into the interviews, I know you very well, right? And you know each other very well. We've been hanging out for at least 5 weeks now, 4 weeks now, and all of you have been known each other for at least what, like 8, 7? Okay, the person you're interviewing you will have known you for all of 7 minutes. So if it's all like, great, this is what I want you to do on the form, just listen on the form. And he'd be like, okay, listen for what? You know, and so draw out the answer. So, an event listener, what specific event?
Submit.
On the submit action of the form. And then we want to make sure we do something. Bloop, 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 bloop. And then this will receive the event. That's right. E for event. All right. And then first thing we want to do on the form is we want to stop seeing that full page refresh action. So we should do what? Prevent the default. And we have to invoke that. And so just to test and do nothing else, let's go ahead and log. Yeah. Every time I click this, yeah, it should come out. Boop, 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 boop. Yeah, man. Cool. Nice. Be cool. All right. So that works as intended. What else do we need now?
We need an ID.
Yeah, we actually need, think about this now, right? Before we even get started, let's think through this whole feature. We've prevented the default for the form. So the form doesn't actually submit. We have to create our own submission. The way we create that is by sending a network request. We already know how to do that. And by creating something, what RESTful route should we hit?
Post.
Yes? Post is the HTTP verb.
Sorry, create.
Yes. We should hit the create action. But what is the RESTful route? right? We want this form, all right, because we are preventing the form from submitting, which is the default action. We need to send our own network request. All right, sorry. Plus. All right. Is that better for some of you? I'm sorry. Sorry about that. I noticed that the code looked really good to me, and then something was wrong. Because I'm like, it's probably too small. So send our own network request. Think about it, right? We're going to hit the create action. The create action, we can already see some point it's going to need the params. So what are the params? What are the params for animal?
Name, species, ID, and diet.
Right, which come from where?
The form.
The form, right? And how do we grab the data from the form? Using JavaScript.
Can you use certain?
All right, the inputs. So let's do that. Cool. So const, what do we have here? Name input. What else do we have? Let's just do it. Document dot query selector action. And what is that? Let's use this. Which one is it? Huh?
Animal dash name.
Animal dash name. This one? Powerful. Cool. So we have an little string ID animal dash name. And then what else do we want? Species. Okay, where's that at? Animal species. Noise. All right, and where is this? What is this last one? Dietary type.
Probably.
This one's a little trickier. All right, this is what we can do though. If we don't know how to do something, what can we do? That's right. Try really hard until we fall on our face and figure it out. So we should probably Google it. But there's a way to figure this out. The first thing is, which one should I be grabbing? What should I be grabbing? The select?
Make an ID for select.
Make an ID for the select?
We should grab the value.
Right, this becomes tricky. Very tricky. So how do I, JavaScript, grab, what is it, select value? On change, for text, before change, on click. Who knows? This is stack over, this one's probably okay. All right, cool. This is, wow, this is probably a decent answer. Probably. Run this code. Get element by the select. And then e.options of this selected value, interesting. We can run dot value. And it'll give you the value. So selected index, who knows where this is coming from?
The option target.
It is coming from E. E is actually the select tag. So that the select tag must have some sort of built-in method in the same way that a div has a built-in method called inner text or inner HTML. Inputs have something called values. Selects has something called selected index. And you can pull the value of it. Cool? No? Yes? No? Look, super tight. Fire. Cool. So like any good, decent human being, I'm just going to rip this real quick. And I'm going to take a look at my index.js. And I'm going to do this. Bloop. Wow. Great. What is the selected ID that I actually need? No. What is the selected value that I actually need? That's right. Selected value. Input. Right? This is me being obnoxious. Please name it something mo better. So we can have, sure. This is, what is this? Species. What is it? Diet type? You're right. Let's just put diet input. God, that was terrible. Embarrassed. All right. And this one is the species input.
It would throw an error.
Say again?
Would that throw an error because there were two constants in this? Before you changed species to, you had two constants called name input.
I had 3 constants called name input, but I had never saved the file. I was just kind of messing around. So we know that there's something right here where we can take the, let's just put it in quotes, ready? I mean in comments right now. So we can take the diet input, and we'd run something called the selected index. But is it going to work though? I need something called options and a bracket of diet input dot selected index dot value. That's going to give me the value. Let's actually test that whole thing because that sounds a little sketch to me. Right? I don't actually know what that is. So let's do this. Let's comment this, and we don't need this anymore. So the constructor is going to give me all the properties of a particular object. So here I'm looking in. If I refresh, I see, okay, I see this selected diet input, this drop down. Cool. I'm looking to see specifically something called options. So these are all the options that are actually available to it. Let's check options. Wow. Did not expect that to be that long. Where are options? Somewhere in here. LMNOP, right? Huh. Oh, I was like, yo, I know what's in here. I was getting nervous. So in options, right, we can see what's in here. The selected index right here. Right now, it's currently selected at 0, which makes sense. So we know that this is real. So I can, in fact, do this. Let's do this. Boop, boop. Cool. Now I have it here. Let's check omnivore. Let's run this code to see if it, in fact, returns what I think it returns. 2. Who feels comfortable about what just happened, how I read through someone's Stack Overflow, tested those assumptions, looked at it myself, and then figured out, like, oh, you know what, that actually works, and I know why it works. I'm not just copying and pasting code. Right? You have to test everything. And so, cool. And so, great. This looks good to me. I'm satisfied with it. We can always go carnivore, and that should give me 0. So 0, 1, 2. Let's check to see what that is really. It makes sense, right? Look at the value right here. 0, 1, 2. Good deal. So we prevented the form from submitting, and now we have to send our network request. We've got all of the inputs, so we know that with the inputs we can pull those values. Should we pull them now or after the user submits? Just like you said over there when I was outside, that I would ask a question and it would go into the abyss. That's okay. So here we want to grab all those values, right? So name input, whoa, caps lock, that was aggressive. Name input dot value. We have species input dot value, because those are inputs, right? And then we have this Bad Johnson over here. Oh yeah, Chris Brown, give me that. So these are the inputs that we're looking for. Did some of you guys get that? That is the first time I've said that anybody has ever laughed. I've been saying that for years. Thank you. Wow. Awesome. All right, so like I said, we need to send our own network request. How do we do that? Ayo. All right, cool. Let's take a look at fetch. All right, MDN, mega powerful. All right, using fetch. Good deal. So fetch right here, as you know, it defaults to get, and it's very easy. If we're trying to hit that create action, we're trying to hit a very specific controller action, we can do, I'm lazy. I don't want to type that all day. That gives us the index, right? What is the actual create route? What are we missing? Yeah, we need to send that post method.
And
Cool.
a bunch of other stuff.
Then, as some of you have gotten to in labs, it gets a little tricky. It gets a little dicey. There's a lot of things to the fetch request. And I'm going to go over and break down what each one does as it pertains to us, if it pertains to us. And so the first thing is you see this URL here and the data type. So that is going to be like the HTTP verb. And also some additional headers that can go in here. So the first thing you see here is in the fetch, it opens up to what? How many objects is this? It's one. So without further ado, I'm going to make sure I make one object, because I don't want to confuse myself. So, oh, dang. Here, how do I add another key value pair to my object? Nice. Mode cores. Right now we don't have to worry about cores because we've set in our Rails server to accept anything. Right? So for your purposes, for what you need to know right now, this is not important. It will be as you start locking down your application. But don't worry. Neither will cache. Cache, again, is one of those performance optimization things where you can force it to look into a cache first. But here we're going to pull it from the server. So these two, important, but not for you right now. You won't really need them. Credentials. This has to do with authentication. And we will learn more about that when you get to Mod 5. Something called JWT, which is the JSON Web Token. Yeah, I know. Whoa. Yeah. Here we have headers, right? Headers you've seen before if you've gone to lab. If not, this is important. I'll explain what they are. Headers is actually a key that points to an object. A value, yes, but the value is an object, so we're all correct. The content type is going to be what type of data are you sending? And we'll be from an application, we'll be sending JSON.
What application?
Your web application. So it's coming from it's coming from an application. And in the application, it's going to be sending you JSON data. Oftentimes, you will ask for a response. If you look for data to come back, you have to tell it what you will accept. So for here, let's do this. We know we need headers. And before I bust this again, I'm going to add another comma. Because remember, this is the key, this is the value, this is the comma that says I can add a third key value pair to my data params. And so here, content type, application JSON. The next thing that's important is I will actually need to accept. This doesn't need to be in a string, but it can be. I will also accept from my Rails backend, my Rails server, which is also like an application in its own right. I want JSON back. And that's really it. There's nothing magical about this. This just says what I'm going to send, the type of data, which is JSON, and what I'm going to receive back, I'm going to accept JSON back.
What are some other examples of content you want to send in?
What a great question. The question is, what other types of things that I want to send here? I don't actually know if it's specified in here because it has a very bizarre name. I'll just tell it to you. These are known as MIME types, and I'll show you. MIME types. Yep, it stands for multi-purpose internet mail extensions, right? So you can think of mail as in like I'm sending something over the internet, as in like almost like an email. And so here we have all different types of MIME types. You have audio, image, model, text, and they come through like text plain. So if I'm not sending back JSON, I can send back just plain text. I can send back regular HTML. I can send back JavaScript. And these are kind of the main ones. Cool. These are getting deprecated. You can see these like, yeah. API has not been standardized. Maybe not deprecated, maybe they're trying to implement it, but either way. So if I hit a server for something, I don't always want JSON back. Sometimes I want pictures. Sometimes I want audio. Sometimes I want a video. And so look, wow, you can probably figure out the rest.
So when I like press play on a song, I'm like requesting from the server content type of audio.
I would assume so, yes. Nice. All right, cool. So MIME types. Any questions on them? The only one you will really need the entire time you're here and most of the time in your application will be application JSON, unless it's obvious that you're working for Imager and you're sending back a bunch of images. Application JSON is not the right answer, right? Yeah.
So you don't accept more than one type file type. Will my value be an array of everything that? Oh.
Yep. So you can send my next, yeah. You can ask for multiple. Cool. All right. So let's get back to work over here. So far, so good. Let's go back to fetch. This is a redirect. You won't really need this. This becomes more complicated fetch actions. Refer just means like if you're redirected, there's ways that JavaScript can track you. If this fetch came from a different server that was sending it. So like, you ever do like log into something else with GitHub? Like GitHub was like being referred from another website. Don't worry about how to use this right now. You will basically won't worry about it. But now the body, this is where the payload is. This is where the data that you want to send to the server goes to the server. So here I have body, and I'll explain what this is. Bloop, bloop, bloop. So this is the third parameter, method, headers, and body. Cool. Any questions on just those three right now?
In the example on the web page, it says return fetch. Do we have to return fetch, or
This is just a function that returns a fetch.
so we don't need to return that?
Right now I'm writing this.
Okay.
Don't worry about this. This is when you want to abstract it and get fancy. Kind of like how old boy did right here. Oh no, he didn't. Just kidding. Chris did. Chris did it really fancy for you. Right? You put like function, and then inside the function it ran the fetch.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a way to refactor, and it will get fancier, and we'll show you why and how that becomes more useful as we get into object-oriented JavaScript next week. So, I know. So here's the data, right? This is not very helpful. The few times MDN is kind of vague and generic. This data is in fact just an object. That is just a bunch of key value pairs. What do you think the key value pairs are as I look at it in the Rails server? Let's check something. Yes. Cool. All right. Nothing crazy. So check it out. The fetch is going to post to /animals, which is going to hit the create action. So let's do it. Oh, whoops, embarrassing. Animals controller. Let me do this. Let me get rid of this because that obviously is not going to work. And let's test. If I hit my localhost and I hit do, and we'll put omnivore. We hit add animal. What should happen? Did I not refresh? Oh, there it is. I just didn't refresh. Embarrassing. Cool. What do you think params are? What did the network request, what did the fetch send in its body? What was the payload that came across?
It's an object.
That's how you send params over. So if I have params here, and I need to do like animal.create with params, what params do I need, and how can I send them over? Yeah, absolutely. So we have What was the name of the attribute? All right, so it's these three, right? Index.js. It's nice to have them all together. So I can have name, I need species ID, and I need a diet. Cool? All right, where's this data coming from, though? I done grabber did them. I did. Wait. Is that right?
No, one up.
Oh. Embarrassing. Bloop, 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 and then diet. Is this one? Is that gonna work?
No.
Why? Yeah, I definitely need some of these, right? What else?
Wouldn't that stringify it?
Right, remember, what did I tell the server it's about to receive? JSON. So I need to turn it into JSON. Right? It's getting a little of that JSON Derulo. Here's the weird thing, though. This is the weird thing. I didn't build this part. Option 0. Is that going to be okay?
No.
What is it really? What is carnivore actually in the database?
Zero.
Is it really 0?
Yeah.
Oh, he says enum? Got it. Cool. Smart. All right, great. Let's just test it then, right? This should be the payload that comes across. So let's check. Let's refresh here. And let's put an animal name. Wow. Okay. Does anyone have an animal name?
Fried chicken.
Okay. And what species is this? Did you say America? America. And what's the diet type? That is a creepy thing to say, but sure. Let's add this animal. Great. Oh, wow. Let's check the... Oh, man, I never got out of the buy book. All right. Here are the params, right? We have name, America. Cool. We done goofed, huh? So what is this over here?
We got carried away.
Yeah? All right, so what works so far? Just name?
Yes.
Diet works, but species ID does not. Okay? So what's happening? What's going on? How can we fix this?
We must create a collection select. We can do a collection.
Do we need a collection select?
We can.
Collection select builds you select and options. But as we already know, what controls the front end? Rails or HTML in JavaScript? Great. So I know collection select was fun and you absolutely loved it, but you will never use it again unless you're building, yeah, I know, Rails. Unless you're building Rails full stack and using Rails front end. Right now we're using HTML, CSS, JavaScript. And so everything that we used for the Rails helpers to build the front end will not apply here. So form 4, form tag, f dot, collection select. Yeah, now you know why I didn't really go that hard. Okay, powerful. So you will build out regular HTML, right? Regular styles. Cool. So the point is that we're trying to make here, and I think we're running out of time, is that you have to shape how this comes through. So the species input, what do we really want it to be?
Species means. Well, we want it to be it.
Okay, and what is diet? What should diet be?
That works.
So species should be some sort of what? Number? Okay, great. Here's how to fix that. Ready? Where's species? Input name. Where's the type? No. Number. Cool. And just like that, it is now a number. I can't put any letters, but I can put a number in.
Poor UI experience.
It is a terrible user experience. Yeah, 1 star.
If you type like a species, they don't like to look for it, it doesn't exist.
Yes, that we can do, because remember how the params came across, right? Species ID, America. We can, in fact, do something like species.findBy if the name is equal to the params of, right, species ID. And that would give us the object. And that's what we really need. All right, so now you're talking about your backend code. Yeah. Who feels a little bit better about this? That the front end and the back end are completely separate, but they need to talk to each other. Because if I'm going to send you a number, and you're like, great, ID, perfect. I need it to be an ID. I need it to be a number. Good looks, thanks. But then the front end's all like, yo, that user experience, 1 star. I have to put in a text. So I'm going to send you some text. So then the back end team is like, okay, cool, send me text. What text are you going to send me? Hopefully it should be the name of the species. Cool. Now I should be on my back end, species.findByName. And so the front end and back end, now you can start really seeing how separate they are, but they really need to talk. So oftentimes you'll see a full stack developer do both, but you can see how it gets way more complicated. Do you remember that Reddit users JSON file I sent you and how the JSON file was like huge? That's a back-end person shaping that data, and we're going to get to that here in a second. And that person needs to talk to the front end, hey, how do you want that data? Got you, fam. You want a little garlic on the side? No big deal. And they talk to each other. So full stack is important, but that is why the specialties and the specializations have come out. Cool? So I don't think America exists. So there is find or create by params species ID. Yeah, that makes sense. Great, bam, I just made it. Powerful. Cool? So I need that code. That code is important to me. So let's go back to the animals controller. I know I'm going to do something with animal dot. Wow, that was terrible. Create. And I have a name that comes across as the params at a key of name. What else do I have? Is diet okay as it comes across on the params right now?
Yes.
Yeah? So params diet. I actually don't know. This is your app. Enum would be fine, right? Let's think though. Let's real quick. Ready? What is params at a key of diet? 0. I need to make it a number. So I need to first make diet number equals to params at a key of diet 2i. And now I can pass in the diet number. Back-end code. I can, yeah. I was just trying to like make it clear what I'm doing, but I could have easily just done this.
Which way is the better way?
The better way is the one that makes the most sense. Here, it's actually decently readable, so I won't need it. But if the params weren't named well or anything, I would make a separate variable and name it so it's clear.
Do we not need to make these strong? Or
If you do them individually, you're inherently whitelisting them individually because you're hard coding them like this. If you use mass assignment, that's when Rails will block it. And so, yeah. And so what else? So what do we do? What was that line of code that I just wrote? Something like find or create by, boop, 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 boop. Cool. So I use this, and that will help me, and that will say species. Oh, wow. And then what is the actual param?
You should look at the schema for diet, because I feel like it's diet.
Cool. And that really is kind of it. That's how to take what you have on the front end, make a NET request, send the post with the right headers, stringify the body, the payload, because you're telling the server they're going to get application JSON, and then with the backend code, manipulate it appropriately to do what it is that you want. And then naturally, What happens now? Do I redirect? Would I redirect? Absolutely not, because I'm not using Rails to handle my views or my front end. So now I should send back, right, JSON, because remember what I told the server I would accept, JSON, and that is going to be, right, an animal. So I send the animal back, the whole object.
And it goes, oh wow.
And then I can let it know status 201. I think it's like this, yeah. Because 201 is, it means 200 series is good. Specifically 201 means it was created.
Why?
I don't know, somebody said and I just started going along with it.
So why do you have to specify that?
Why do you have to specify that?
You have to specify status?
You do not have to, but I highly recommend you do, because who here enjoys error messages that don't make sense? Who here likes that? You like that? Yes, very much. Me too. Here, if you send a particular status, right, that something happened, then you could check the status of the response. You can check the status of the network request, and then this becomes more useful to you. When you go to network and you see all these like 200s, you're like, nice! Except when you get some 404s, where do you think that 404 came from? Right. Somebody sent a status back that said 404. So now you know that, hey, this request is like dead weight. Now you can investigate. If I sent back a status 200 and it didn't work, would you ever investigate? No, because it said 200. It looks good to me. And then you would be baffled and confused. You're like, oh, it says it works, and guess what? It doesn't. That's annoying. So always send back a status. It will help you in the long run. So let's get rid of the buy bug. Let's see what comes back from this actual fetch. So I can have animal name. What kind of animal name do we want to make? I got to get rid of this, the pre-filled out drop downs. I got to clear these out. And any animal? Sunshine? Sunshine? Cool. What's the species? You want to make America? Sure. Oh, I didn't like that. Oh, it's a number now. Oh, that's right. I forgot. Let's change that back. Well, text action. Cool. Sunshine. America. And then what is this? Herbivore? Wow, that was aggressive. Omnivore it is. I don't know. All right. Add animal. That's weird. Nothing happened. Let's take a look at that console log. Huh. Nothing happened. Weird. Oh, I'm still in the buy bug. Wow. Mega busted. Oh, dang. Failing like a punk. All right, cool. Let's try that again. Let's investigate, right? So Sunshine, America, and let's make it an omnivore, herbivore, whatever. It said 500 server error. Didn't like that. Something about the syntax here is busted. Oh, I think this is one object. Let's try that. Dang it. Dang. Dang. Double dang. Didn't like it again. Syntax error.
It's a schema for guy.
No, it's a typo on my half. I forgot how to send the status back. We'll Google that here in a second. But this,
That looks right.
that looked correct, yeah.
I'll look it up on the
Status got me again. It definitely worked. Something happened. But why did I get nothing back here? Because, let's think through. I just sent the fetch and it did nothing. No thens. Embarrassing. Then I can take the response. I can response to JSON, and then I can take that response, which should be some sort of animal object, And then I can console log the animal. Cool? So now I should see something in my console. Great. All right, let's make a sunshine. America. Let's do the carnivore. Oh, look, there it is. All right, if I add animal, this is what comes back. Again. Yeah.
When you send status, you don't need semicolon, just renders column and then.
All right, let's do this. Rails render status. What did I send?
You did the column before the number.
Just need status colon, and then
No column, no colon.
No colon?
Yes, okay.
Interesting. Okay. All right, cool. Thank you. All right, so now I'm gonna take a quick break. Who feels comfortable about this post to this URL, why we wrote it? No? All right, headers, what content type and what accept is. All right. Huh? 2 seconds. Content type is what you're going to send to the server, what type of data, and accept is what you're going to get back.
this is just something that you should just memorize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And so we won't ask you to memorize much. However, you'll be doing this specifically so often, it becomes memory. But if you watched and paid attention how I just did this lecture, I pulled this straight from the docs, right? And you could pull out and see what is important to you as you write that fetch. And again, in this body, because I told the server they're getting JSON, I must stringify JSON the body. And the name, species ID, diet, these are going to be the keys that become the params. And what are the values that you want to send? How do you pull that data, right? This was a little bit complicated, but you saw me Google it live in front of you. You saw this check mark with 2,557 votes on it. You're like, oh, that's probably pretty good. And then we tested it. It made sense. We went through the properties of the select dropdown. We figured out why that worked. And then now that skill is ours. And so with this proper data being sent across on the params, I dropped the by bug. It hit the correct controller action because I understand Rails routes. And then I did something with it. I parsed the JSON because I told the server I wanted JSON back. So I had to parse it. And then I did whatever I wanted with it. Here at this point, let's take a look. Whoops, embarrassing. Whoops. Actually, now this should have something. There it is. Hey, cool. So let's take a look. If I refresh, take a look at these. Sunshine is there. If I refresh again, sunshine is there. But let's do this. Let's make Charizard the animal, a species of, the Mons, right? Dietary type, homeboy eats everything. If I click add animal, take a look at the console log. It is in fact there. It creates ID number 3. Nothing happened on the DOM. Why? Because we didn't do anything to the DOM. However, it is in the database. So upon refresh, what should happen? It's on the DOM. So now in order to finish the user experience, and that is this actually, right, is the network request. Now we need to, no, I'm not going to do it. Add it to the DOM. Now I want to talk about something that's really important. There's 2 ways to do this. I can do it right here. Slap it on the, I can add it to the DOM. God, that's going to be a bad habit. I can add it to the DOM, or, all right, if I do this, remember this only works on 1 line. So if I don't have it, I need to add the brackets. All right? I can either add it here, or add it here. If I add it here, let's think through what's going on, because I'm going to introduce terminology that can be tricky. If I add it here, This is a then. Did the server get updated right here on line 73? Was the server updated? Was the server updated? Yes, because the fetch sent, then I parsed it, then I actually have the object to work with. The server is 100% updated at this point. If I were to describe that, if I were to add it to the DOM, would you say that I trust whether or not the fetch succeeded, or am I waiting until I can guarantee, know for sure that the fetch succeeded? Which one? If I'm in this line 73, I know it succeeded. So I don't necessarily trust that the fetch succeeded. I'm waiting to make sure it 100% succeeded. This is known as pessimistic rendering. So this is big word alert, pessimistic rendering. This is in reference to, right, knowing for sure the fetch succeeded. Succeeded. That looks right. Two D's? Two E's? That's fine. Knowing for sure the fetch succeeded, then updating the DOM. All right. For you. Slapping on the DOM, right? Slapping the DOM, sure. Do you guys want to come to my college class and spice it up a little bit? All right.
You're a professor, bro.
I am. All right. So naturally, if this is pessimistic, right, the opposite term would be the
Optimistic or realist.
right, or realist, right? Optimistic rendering. Why is this called optimistic rendering? Yeah, I'm hoping. The fetch goes, and if you remember, it's async, right? This code will run before the thens come back. The fetch runs, and then this code will run before the thens. Remember the asynchronous nature, the event loop, waiting till the call stack is clear. This is still executing code. The call stack is not clear. The thens won't run yet. That means that I send a fetch. This is what actually is happening. I'm going to go, cool, I have Charizard. It's some sort of Pokemon. Go ahead and update the database. While it's doing that asynchronously, I'm going to update the DOM, fully assuming that it's going to work. That is me being optimistic. Because what can possibly happen? I click the button, and then what? The internet goes out. The server doesn't fully get the request. The data doesn't update, but guess what the user sees on the DOM? Whatever I slapped on it, right? It looks like it was successfully added. So you, as a developer, have a very important choice to make. And that is, do I update pessimistically, or do I update the DOM optimistically? And the choice is always going to be, it depends, right? If I'm on Instagram, how often do you go back and check what you liked? Again, friggin' never, right? You're just going like, you know what, beach photo, cool. Oh, wow, you went to Cancun? Cool. Oh, you're smoking up? Yeah, I'm just gonna scroll past that, right? That kind of stuff, right? I would update optimistically. It is more important that the user sees that little heart and sees the like go up, rather than if I double click, it fires off the network request, updates the like in the back end, then comes back, and then the heart or like comes. That is a 1 second delay that the user will look at your website and go, 1 star, no thanks. So the choice is yours, because optimistic rendering will happen immediately. Pessimistic rendering will wait until the network request is done, and then I will update the DOM here. So let me ask you this. You are creating a brand new user in your database. Optimistic or pessimistic? Pessimistic for sure. I never want to tell a user, hey, your account has been successfully created, when it in fact was not. Right? And so the choice is going to be yours, and it's always going to be based on what are you sending and what you are doing. Who feels comfortable about optimistic versus pessimistic, and why the choice is yours and the choice you're going to make?
The only difference being curly bracket and a parenthesis.
Yeah, it's going to be where you write your code, the context execution. So this right here, some pros. Guarantee it done happened, right? But slower. Optimistic rendering, when you slap it on the DOM, right? Muy faster, right? Like kinda sketch, not sure, server was updated. And you're running a risk here. Cool? All right.
A1 Instagram example.
Say again?
A1 Instagram example.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's like when you're in the subway and you try to request it, and like it says,
Oh yeah, that's right. So yeah, I think Instagram is optimistic, right? You can like something, but then you're underground and it definitely says no service. But guess what comes up? The heart, the red, and the likes go up. And then you get to the next station, and then like you close Instagram, you reopen it, your like definitely didn't hit the database.
How about airplane mode? Still goes, no problem.
Are you doing it right now? I would normally say that's very rooted lecture, but I believe we're testing, which I highly encourage. No more, only one person on Instagram right now.
I
All right.
don't really like anything that I like. It's just for the.
I've been liking
For the testing,
Yeah, I don't really like airplane.
obviously. All right, so look, let's bring it back and let's focus, right? So
is there one, how long is it?
I only got like 5 minutes left. And so check it out. I have something called create animal row, which is a function that creates a brand new row that adds it to the DOM, that slaps it right on there. Boom. I can either call it pessimistically with the animal object, or I can call it optimistically. So let's refresh and make a, this is Pessy, right? And that is like frowny species. And this particular he, she, they, him, that is a carnivore. Why? What does create animal row do again? Yeah, it makes a new element and then it just adds it right there. Oh, it returns the table row. I have to append it. Yeah, where is that? Table. Here it is. This is the full code. Sorry. Boom. Cool. Hey, do I have access to table here?
Yes.
Because of JavaScript scope, right? It'll look out. Let me look. There it is, but it didn't do it because I refreshed. Now let's try again. What'd you say? McLovin. Just one name. That's it. Just one name. Very good. And is McLovin an herbivore, carnivore, omnivore? An alcoholic, really. Oh, uncaught promise reference error. Animal is not defined. Oh, sorry. Animal object. Dang. All right, one more animal. Just one more. Sad face. All right. Sadie McFacerson. Cool. All right, hopefully. Oh. Thank God. Yes. Cool. All right. So, to review. Listening for the form, the submit, we're grabbing all the inputs. That's going to be useful because we need the value of the inputs to send for params. We prevent the default initially. We send our network request because we prevented the original default network request. It is going to be to whatever route we want. Here we're trying to create, so we know the RESTful route based on our Rails backend says it's going to be a post to /animals. So we match it, post to /animals right here. We tell the server it's going to get some JSON. All right, we're going to get back some JSON. So in order to send JSON, I'm going to stringify whatever I send over. These are the keys in the params, and these will be the values coming from the inputs that we grabbed off the DOM. Then, because we told the JSON we're getting JSON back, and the Rails server rendered JSON, we have to parse it, taking that animal object, and then choosing to pessimistically render, and adding it and slapping it right on the DOM. That is what we covered today. There's one more thing I want to cover. It is not that bad, but do you guys want a break? All right. All right, let's just take a quick commercial. We talked about the fact that we want to shape our data. So when I looked at this, right, oh, I closed it. No, I didn't. This is what actually comes back, right? As we've talked about, sometimes you'll have a user model with like a password digest, and does created at and updated at, is that important to send back to the front end? Sometimes if you're using like a sort, right, but you should really be sorting on the back end and then sending all that data to the front end sorted, because it's faster. But do you always need the ID? Sometimes. Do you need species ID? Is the foreign key important on the front end? Not really, right? So you want to be able to like control what you send over to the front end. And so let's do that. Back in our Rails, all right, let's see, control shape of, I don't know, Rails JSON. Serialization, great. I learned this word now. Rails serialization, or serializer, cool. A quick start, great, great, great. Let's just actually go directly to the serializer docs. Cool, Rails API serializers. So there's something called active model serializer. Great, blah, blah, blah. Let's look at the documentation because that's what good devs do. First thing I see is installation. Gem install this. No biggie deal. Let's go to our gem file. Am I doing something that you like, it's like, doesn't make sense to you? All right, like that. Cool. Ready? Bam, slap it on there. That is becoming a terrible habit. And then I bundle. All right, now that it's installed, so boom, add it on there, then bundle. Now I need to get started. Wow, let's get started. The easiest way to create a new serializer is to generate a new resource, which will generate a serializer at the same time. However, you can also generate a serializer for an existing model. So we already have a model that exists, right? Animal. So I can just, wow, look at that syntax. Rails use serializer post animal. Okay, cool, done. And this is what it builds for you, right? Awesome. And it says that there's some attributes, cool. I have to do belongs to. So if I put attributes inside the serializer file, it looks like I can control what I send. So let's just test this theory. I can find inside my serializers folder, literally attributes ID. All right, cool. Let's take a look at what actually comes back. If I go back here and I refresh, okay, that's embarrassing. Sorry. So what I really actually want is not just the ID, but I also want the name. Anytime. See, network requests. You never know when they'll come back. All right, you've proven your point. Come on, man. Let's go.
Bang.
There it is. And so now I've eliminated the species ID, the created at, and the updated at, because the front end doesn't need that information. So I can shape the data that I want. I also know that animal, okay, that's not the one. Animal, oops, belongs to species. Great. Belongs to man, I forgot. It's been a long time. Happens, you lose it fast. Belongs to species. Cool. Oh no. And there it is. It will nest the data for me. You see that? On one, it has a species, got me a gain, and all the data for it. And if I wanted to shape this, I would go inside and create a new serializer for species. And I would tell it what attributes I wanted to send back. That was 5 minutes. Cool. So any questions on serializers? How to install them? Right? What they do and how to write the code for it. Why you would want to use a serializer. Great. That's all I have for you today.